So
No.
we are here in Paris, in France. So you play against.
Kouatly, yeah. Kouatly was
Yes.
strong grandmaster coming. Actually, he's Lebanese, but he was living in France. And later on, later, he was also president of the French Federation. Chess Federation. Okay, we're starting with c5, d5, d6, knight c3, and we'll have king's Indian later on. Because of the move order, now e4, bishop g7, and very active f4. Now we have the 4 pawns, the so-called 4 pawns variation. This is very dangerous for black. Black has to play very active and in the same time very precisely with black, because the variation is in every position. You could have a tactical surprise, So castle and knight f3, and here I played a6. The same idea as our game against Todt. We are trying to get in such a position where we have some kind of gambit with b5, you see. Benga gambit, Benga Volga gambit. So now here he doesn't allow this possibility. The alternative here was to play a4 first, and after a4, e6, we come to the normal variation from this opening. We have a position similar with our game with Gurevich, for instance, and some other important games that I played before and we showed already. And here the difference is that he's trying immediately to push in the center, and we have a different kind of variation where black again has to try to demonstrate that the pawns in the center, the e5 later on, are weak enough to be attacked, you see. But at the first sight, the game is very good for white, you see, because he's coming very quickly. So now you have to take. If you want to do something, you have to take in e5. So, okay, you accept the challenge, and now it's move by move again. We attack the pawn. Okay, has to defend, bishop f4, of course. Now we attack again, knight d7. Again, he doesn't give the pawn, no? Queen e2. And queen c7. Okay, we attack 4 times.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, he tries to defend the pawn or play d6, he loses the pawn in e5, no?
Yeah.
So he plays d6, but now we have a very different position where he's a little bit too open, you see. The king from e1 is a little bit too open. Even if for a few moves it seems that white is, has a very good position. Everything is forced now. You take in d6, knight d5 with tempo now, and queen b8. And he took in d6. Okay, you don't attack the pawn anymore. He has a very strong knight at the first sight in b5, but positionally he's probably lost already with white. Why? Because the position is much too open. The king is in e1 is very weak.
And the rooks and the bishop is on f1 is
in f1. It doesn't play for the moment.
Yeah.
And you see the difference now is very clear. Black has every piece plays very well. You have a very good initiative on the queen side. You have an open diagonal from g7. You attack immediately in the pawn from b2, and he has to be very careful what happens later on the e file, you see, after bishop b7, with the idea to take in d5 and winning the queen immediately with rook e8, you see.
Rook d8, yes.
Yeah, the queen in e2 is a little bit artificial like this. He doesn't have time to castle alongside. Maybe it was possible
because it looks here first that you give up a pawn with this move b5.
No, if he takes the pawn, he's lost in any position later on. If you arrive to take back the pawn and give a check, he's already almost winning.
If he
can take. You take, and if he takes with the queen, even if you can play bishop e6, or you can if you takes there after rook takes b8, he's lost. No, the other rook.
Yes.
The other rook. Now you attack everything. What can he play here? Because completely winning the position for black. You attack every piece, here. Everything is under control. Mm-hmm. The pawn in d6 is all right. He has a good pawn in d6, but has many problems with his king, with his pawns, everything is hanging, yeah.
Yes.
Now, okay, he doesn't have time to take, and from now on, the position is most instructive because after h3, again, is forced. It seems that is all right because the knight in g4 was very active, but you move back the knight in f6. Now he has to take a decision what to do. If he takes in f6 is bad, so he has to give check in e7, king h8, and now what can he do? Rook b1. Okay, he gives you the move. But after rook b1, I played bishop b7. Now everything is very clear. The idea for black is to come back somehow with the queen in d8, and if you have time to come in d8 and threaten check in a5 is decisive. Because for the moment, again, you threaten to take back the pawn, you have very strong tactical threats, and the king in e1 is very bad, and the rook h1 and the bishop f1 didn't play at all for the moment, you know.
So you activate the queen, take
If you can have a very active queen, is enough to try to play for win, you know, here. So what to do? Bishop e5, and the active move, bishop e5. Okay. So after knight e5, I took in e5, he took with the bishop, and knight e4. Now again, very unpleasant. Okay, we agree to trade the bishop, but if he takes in e7 and we take with the king, later on we win the pawn from d6, and he has problems later on with the knight from e7, you see.
Yeah.
Maybe hanging the knight to f7 is enough to lose the game, you see. So bishop h2, the last hope, but it's enough. Now here, white is already lost already after bishop h2, after the simple move, queen d8. Now we threaten to take in d6, queen a5 check, and everything is hanging, you see, in every position. Okay, b4, but now after move b4, he has some terrible threats, you know, bishop c3 check, knight c3, the king again very bad in e1, you know, position is terrible for white, probably lost already. So now you have to choose how to win with black.
Too many options.
Yeah, well, I mean, completely winning the position, you know. So what to do? I took in c4, I accepted, you know, the challenge. I played already a little bit for the beauty price of this game, you know. Which will be, it will be very clear what to play and how, even with small mistakes, but very spectacular, you know, the last few moves. Check.
Sorry.
Yeah. King e2 looks like, king e2 with the bishop in f1 and the rook in h1. Yes. Yeah. Unbelievable, you know, such an opening for white, you see. So now bishop d4. Well, black would win with any other move, probably, even if we take in b4 with the pawn, is winning, you know. But okay, after bishop d4, you attack the queen, and you want to play knight c3 check, and the rook is down, you know. So bishop e5 check, he gives a pawn, I mean, he's desperate here, what can he do? You have to take, and now the last hope is to take the pawn, and somehow have a small chance with the two passed pawns, you know, d6 and c5. Of course, black is winning in any position.
He gave up the bishop here, or?
Yeah, he gave a bishop for this possibility to have the two pawns.
Connected.
Of course, now you win in any position with many other moves. But I choose the continuation from our game because it's the most spectacular, you know, like this. I gave a check, now king there, bishop f6. Now he can't take the b7 because he loses the queen after knight d1 check.
Yeah.
Okay,
nice.
He has to...
But why you didn't took the...
Where?
If
you take the rook, he has a small chance with queen takes e5, and he can hope a little bit, you know.
Yes.
With the passed pawns, you see, because the rooks, the black rooks are not too active for the moment, you see.
Yeah.
It's more difficult. No, bishop f6 is excellent. So now you give him the move. He took back. Finally, he has the bishop comes into play, you know, in c4.
Yeah.
But now you don't take the rook. Now is the surprise. Now you give check in e4. Now again, the king has to be in some inactive position in g1. And now you have to, therefore I told you, it's very spectacular. You give back the piece. He has to take. Now you take the pawn. He doesn't have time to take in b7 because he loses the queen with bishop d4.
Oh, yes.
And now it's finished. The position is completely lost for white again. You
Still because of the...
Yeah, the threat bishop d4 is terrible, and now everything is forced. He loses a piece here in every position. Knight d5 is forced. Now you take the knight in d5, and rook d1, the last hope. And after rook d1, queen e6, and he lost a piece. Well, from this moment, he continued to play, which is not very nice, of course, in such a position.
Yes.
Well, the rest of the game is not important. Until here was okay, but he even adjourned the game. I mean, with piece down, to adjourn the game is unbelievable. You know? Well, there we can show some other moves, but it's not important anymore. I mean,
yeah, some people don't know how to lose.
It's not very nice, of course.
Yes.
He was nervous. He was a little bit upset because what happened during the game, you know. Many complications, even after the best moves that he could find, it was already lost in any position and so on. He was, it's a little bit...
it looked like a disaster for
well, it's a disaster, of course, yeah. But anyway, you can't play something like this without a piece, you know. How can you adjourn such a position?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and many pawns also.
It doesn't matter. Here, black could even give the piece and play, 4 pawns and rook against rook. And, yeah. No, the rest is not important. But until there, the game was very interesting, you see. Very tactical and very sharp, you see. After the opening and in the middle game. Well, the rest was not important.
Beautiful.
But the fact that he was also grandmaster and play such an opening, such a position is not nice. Okay, he excused himself later on, but okay, I could understand. He was a little bit too nervous. Yeah, it can happen. But the game was beautiful.
True.
Very important theoretical. The opening and the middle game, very important. Later on, okay.
Later on.
Anybody could win. Anybody could win.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You're welcome. Yeah.